Hey guys, welcome everybody to the Crypto Times inaugural live stream. I am your host, the Crypto Baron, and today we are absolutely privileged to be joined by none other than the Charles Hoskinson, the Chief Executive Officer at Input Output Hong Kong.
It's a pleasure to be on. Thank you for having me. I never honestly thought I'd come back to Ethereum. I thought maybe 20 years in the future we'd do some reunion thing after all the wars have been fought. We either won or lost. But outside of that, probably not. But what happened was that basically one of the guys close to Ethereum, Stefan Tual, formed a company called Slockit, and they created basically a decentralized venture capital firm. And they said, hey, look at this amazing thing we've done. And they made a lot of bold claims, and they raised a hell of a lot of money. And it turned out that there was a flaw, and that flaw was exploited. Well, this is nothing new. There was a flaw with Mt. Gox. There was a flaw with a lot of things. And a lot of money's gotten stolen in the past or lost in the past. There's plenty of wallet makers who fucked up and they accidentally burnt tokens or didn't preserve private keys and lost their money. This is the danger of using cryptocurrency, and part of the social contract is when you make mistakes, there's no one to show up to bail you out. One of the problems, though, was that the people who started the DAO kind of had some close relationships with the EF, and it wasn't clear that if the DAO was to fail, what legal and regulatory impact that would have on the broader Ethereum ecosystem. Whereas things like Mt. Gox failing with Bitcoin, okay, Karpeles goes to jail, we're all fine, but Bitcoin lives on. This was a back door that could cascade into the EF potentially, and basically for the next 2 or 3 years, potentially longer, cause a lot of problems for them. So I can understand the political motivation to say maybe we need to reverse this and kind of say this is the only time we're going to do backsies, but let's never do it again. But the problem is that when you take other people's money with a social contract, you have to be completely honest about that. And when you say code is law, illegality, code can't fail, unstoppable applications, and you put in bold red letters that if you do something, you are held accountable for your actions, and then you make a decision to abandon that philosophy because of regulatory or legal convenience this one time, in my view, you've completely divorced yourself from everything that makes cryptocurrency special. I mean, 2008 is a great example where the government says, okay, we're going to bail people out and we're going to fix all this stuff up and we won't get involved again. But we have to get involved this time to save the free market and save everything. But the problem is that they just keep saying it. They said it with the SNL crisis. They said it with long-term capital management. They said it with the financial crisis, the mortgage-backed security issue. And it's going to be another crisis. They'll do the exact same damn thing. The reality is the minute that you know you can cross that river, it becomes too tempting to cross it again, especially when you go from millions to billions to hundreds of billions of dollars of people's value, and you go from you're a bad guy to being sued to going to jail in terms of the cost of not doing that. And if you have a small centralized group of actors who have the ability to do that, then they're going to do it because people are people. And the point of cryptocurrencies is they're not people. They don't have our values. They don't have our philosophy. They don't care when grandma loses money. They don't care when people are stolen. Over $4 billion worth of Bitcoin has been stolen over the history of Bitcoin. About 10% of the supply. If you add up all the thefts and account for the increase in market cap, it's a big number. Yet Bitcoin's still here. It's still got strong principles. It's still got a lot of adherence. People are still using it. People are building businesses on top of it. So the point is that you pick the moral high ground. So when I heard that they were potentially thinking about rolling things back, I felt like they had defrauded the people who put the money in and a lot of people who worked their asses off to build up the ecosystem. And it wasn't a matter of me thinking that if they forked that it would destroy Ethereum and somehow Ethereum would not be successful. In fact, I think it's quite the opposite. I think a fork actually made Ethereum much more appealing to banks and enterprise actors and governments because they realized that there was a consumer protection component now and they could intervene when necessary, if necessary, for the greater good of society, potentially. And the community may be on board with that. And sure enough, post-fork, the EEA has been established. The value's gone from $1 billion to think, what is it, 20 billion now, a lot. And there's a huge amount of enterprise and government love. Even the PBOC is saying that maybe this is a good idea. But I felt that betrayed what we were trying to do. Always being the guy in the minority and always being the guy on the outside, I philosophically supported ETC, didn't expect it to go anywhere, thought it was going to get killed in a few days. But when it got listed, got developer support, and it got momentum, it looked like it actually would become permanent. And I'm very glad that I got involved. And frankly, I don't care if it was $1 or $1 billion, I'd still come in and make the same decision, because it was about giving people who felt like they had been lied to or betrayed their original social contract and honoring that social contract. So that was then. And that, where are we at today for ETC? Well, you can't build a movement on a protest, and you can't build something sustainable by defining yourself by what you're not. You have to lead. So now that the community is stabilized, we have 2 independent development teams, one I control and one that is more community-centric. We have good community management. We have a podcast, Let's Talk ETC, that's done by Christian Severino and Carlo. Carlos is also doing a very good job broadcasting the message. We have a great community now. It's getting to the point where we can actually start diverging and actually having discussions about what does the divergence need to look like. We've already had several hard forks just to clean things up, like get rid of replay TAC, change the monetary policy to cap it, make it much more Bitcoin-like than Ethereum's current monetary policy. And now we're going to have some discussions about what is the future consensus algorithm? How are we going to achieve scalability? How are we going to have much more secure smart contracts? What core programming languages are going to be used to create applications on ETC? How do we get ETC to talk to other blockchains? These types of things. And because there's many different ways to do these things, the decisions that our community make will ultimately be very different in many cases than the decisions ETH makes. And you'll see the chains kind of diverge very considerably. And then they'll tend to be specialized and good for particular applications. But one thing ETC will never do is violate its principles. If I recommended rolling back a transaction, or anybody else in the community, pitchforks and torches would appear and we'd be kicked out in 20 minutes. So that's one guarantee that you get. ETC is basically Ethereum with Bitcoin style ethics, and Ethereum is its own thing, which is fine. And if you bought Ether, you can't really complain because you actually got positions in both chains. So the social contract is preserved, and now you got this other thing that's going on that's tremendously successful.